forward. House Republicans say their budget draft is meeting the state's needs in a responsible way. This, of course, out of Frankfort now, but a letter from the Personnel Cabinet claims it will be devastating to the state's employee health plan.
WKYT's Kristen Kennedy takes a closer look at that claim in this WKYT Fact Check.
Well, I took a close look at the letter the Secretary for the Personnel Cabinet sent to the General Assembly. She's claiming the budget cuts will affect all employees that are part of the Kentucky Employee Health Plan, saying in part, HB 500 would, quote, necessitate at least some of the following changes to the current plan design, increasing co-pays for care appointments and prescriptions, increased out-of-pocket maximums, and removal of certain drugs from coverage. The Secretary's letter then lists examples like state troopers losing close to $400 a month in health coverage costs. Correctional officers were listed as well, losing a little more than $400 a month, and school bus drivers could lose even more than that, more than $500 a month. The primary sponsor of the bill, Jason Petrie, is calling this a starting point. He fully expects the draft to change in the weeks to come. In a statement given to WKYT, Chairman Petrie says in part, it is important that we have these conversations about the staggering costs associated with the KEHP benefit. Under the administration's proposal, an estimated total cost to taxpayers will be more than $2 billion each year for this one employee benefit. This is an irresponsible political position. Petrie went on to say if legislators don't address the healthcare cost increases, it'll lead to disaster for employees and taxpayers. This first draft will likely undergo some changes before a final vote. With this WKYT Fact Check, I'm Kristen Kennedy.